The sky burned red as the alien ships appeared on the horizon. They were enormous, bigger than mountains, their metal hulls glinting in the dying sunlight. People screamed and ran, trying to find shelter, but nowhere seemed safe. The air was filled with a heavy roar, like 1,000 storms combined. As the alien fleet descended toward the human colony, Ethan crouched behind the remains of a broken wall, his hands trembling as he held his father's old rifle. He had heard stories about the alien soldiers, how they showed no mercy, how they crushed everything in their path. And now, seeing them in person, the fear he had tried to hide bubbled to the surface. His heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing the chaos around him. The colony had prepared for emergencies, but no one could prepare for this. The leaders had surrendered quickly, bowing to the aliens in hope that their lives would be spared. Yet, Ethan could not bring himself to give up. He could not let his home, his family, and his people fall without a fight, even if the fight seemed impossible. From the shadow of the largest ship, a figure stepped forward. She moved gracefully, her silver armor shining in the red light. She was nothing like the soldiers who poured from the fleet. There was calmness in her every movement, a quiet power that made the air around her feel alive. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. This was the commander, the one who could end everything with a single word. Her eyes, golden and deep, scanned the area. They were not like human eyes, not cold and unfeeling like the others. They seemed to look right into the soul. Ethan froze. He had never seen anything like it. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The soldiers behind her halted, waiting for her command. Ethan felt small, unarmed, and hopeless. But something inside him stirred. He remembered the stories his mother had told him, of humans standing against impossible odds, of courage that could change fate itself. He took a shaky breath and peeked over the wall. "Please, leave us alone," he whispered, though he was not sure if she could understand him. His voice sounded tiny against the roar of the ships. Still, he spoke it, because fear was not enough to silence him. The commander tilted her head. She studied him carefully, her golden eyes holding a strange curiosity. Ethan felt his knees weaken, but he stayed where he was. Then, almost impossibly, she smiled. It was not cruel or mocking. It was soft, gentle, almost human. The smile reached her eyes, and for a moment, Ethan felt something shift inside him, a tiny spark of hope in the middle of terror. Her soldiers shifted uneasily. They were trained to follow without question, to obey every order without hesitation. Yet even they paused. Her smile, so simple and so unexpected, seemed to slow the flow of time. Ethan did not understand why, but he felt it too, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, things could change. Ethan crouched lower, unsure if he should speak again. Fear and wonder battled in his chest. He had no weapons that could harm her, no power to stop the fleet, and yet, something in that smile told him that courage was not about guns or armor. It was about standing, even when the world wanted you to fall. Then she moved closer, her golden eyes never leaving his. "Why do you not fear death?" she asked, her voice calm and musical, carrying across the ruins of the colony. Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment. "Because I have something worth living for," he said, his voice gaining strength. "My family, my home, my people. And I won't let anyone take that away." Her smile deepened, just slightly, like she understood something only he could feel. Ethan's heart pounded harder, but it was not from fear anymore. It was from a strange mixture of awe, hope, and defiance. He was just one human, small and fragile, yet he felt alive and somehow, seemed that the commander's presence filled the space between them. Ethan did not know what would happen next. The soldiers behind her tensed, waiting, ready to obey. But for the first time, it seemed that even their leader was uncertain. And in that uncertainty, a fragile hope began to grow. Ethan's heart was still racing, but he stayed low behind the wall, watching the alien commander. She had stopped moving, her golden eyes fixed on him. The soldiers around her had frozen as well, unsure of what to do. For a moment, silence filled the colony, broken only by the distant hum of the alien ships. He could feel the weight of the moment. One wrong move, one sudden action, and the soldiers could strike. Yet, there was something in her gaze that gave him a strange courage. He had never felt so small and so powerful at the same time. The commander's attention was on him, and for reasons he didn't understand. That attention felt like a lifeline. "Why do you risk yourself for others?" she asked, her voice soft but firm, carrying an authority that silenced even the wind. Ethan swallowed hard. "Because someone has to," he said. "If we all give up, then nothing is left." Not for our families, not for our homes. I won't let that happen. Her head tilted again, curious. She took a step closer, her silver armor reflecting the dying light. Her soldiers shifted, as if expecting her to give a command, but she didn't. Instead, she looked at him like he was something rare, something unexpected. Ethan's hands clenched the rifle tightly, though he knew it could not harm her. Still, it gave him a sense of control, a reminder that he was not completely helpless. He forced himself to stand a little taller. Despite the fear twisting in his stomach, the commander's golden eyes softened, and she smiled again. This time, it was wider, more expressive. It reached her eyes and lingered there, like a quiet promise of something neither of them understood. Ethan felt a strange warmth inside, a mix of relief and disbelief. A single smile had made the impossible seem possible. The soldiers behind her shifted uneasily. They were trained to obey instantly, but even they hesitated. Her smile was not a command, not a threat, yet it carried weight heavier than any weapon. Ethan realized something profound. Courage and compassion could travel farther than fear and power, even across species. And she spoke again. "You are different from the others I have seen," she said. Her voice carried curiosity, but also a hint of respect. Most would run, scream, beg, or hide. You stand. You do not flinch, even when death is near. Ethan's throat tightened. "I do what I must," he said quietly. "Even if it scares me." The commander's golden eyes narrowed slightly, thoughtful. Ethan sensed that she was weighing him, testing him, trying to understand what made a human stand so firm in the face of impossible odds. Around them, her soldiers shifted, uncomfortable with the unusual pause. They had never seen hesitation from their leader before. For the first time, Ethan felt a shift in the balance of power. He was just one human, frail and small compared to the aliens, yet he was holding the attention of a being who could crush everything in an instant. Somehow that gave him strength he didn't know he had. A moment passed. Then she took a deep breath, her golden eyes locking on his. "I could end this now," she said softly. "I could command my soldiers to destroy everything. Your colony, your people. You." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. His hands gripped the rifle tighter. He knew there was no weapon on Earth that could stop her if she chose to attack, and yet, she continued, "I see courage in you. I see a spirit I have not seen in many cycles. You are remarkable." Ethan blinked. He didn't know what to say. For the first time, he felt seen, understood, and valued by a being who could decide the fate of thousands with a single word. He realized that it wasn't weapons, strategy, or strength that mattered here, it was heart. Then, she smiled again. A simple human-like smile that seemed to reach across the void between their species. It was a smile that promised life, not death. Ethan felt tears sting his eyes, but he didn't hide them. He had faced fear and hopelessness, and for the first time, he felt a fragile sense of hope. Something inside him had shifted, and he knew this encounter would change everything. The commander's soldiers waited, still tense, still expecting a signal. Ethan held his breath, unsure if the next moment would bring salvation or doom. But in that smile, he felt the impossible, a chance. A chance that courage, kindness, and heart could change even the most powerful enemy's mind. And he knew somehow that nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan's heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it would burst from his chest. The alien commander stood before him, her golden eyes glowing softly in the fading red light. Around her, the soldiers shifted uneasily, like predators unsure of their next move. For a moment, everything seemed frozen. The war, the fear, the destruction, all paused between them. He took a cautious step forward, feeling the rough ground beneath his feet. I don't want to fight," he said, his voice trembling but steady. "I just want to protect my people. My home. My family." The commander's eyes studied him carefully, tilting her head as if listening to the words of his soul rather than his voice. She was silent for what felt like an eternity, and Ethan feared that silence more than 1,000 weapons. What if she didn't understand? What if this was the end? Then she spoke, her voice calm but firm. "You are not afraid of me, and yet, you have nothing that can harm me." "Why?" Ethan swallowed hard, his fingers tightening on the rifle. "Because I have to be brave. Someone has to stand when others can't, and even if I fall protecting what I love." His words were simple, but they carried everything he felt: fear, hope, determination, and love for his people. The commander's gaze softened slightly. She took a step back and motioned with her hand. Her soldiers froze instantly, as if even the slightest gesture could be a command. "Your courage. It is unusual," she said, almost to herself. "I have seen many civilizations. Most crumble in fear, but you." Her golden eyes met his. "You are different." Ethan felt warmth surge in his chest, but it was mixed with anxiety. "Different? How?" he asked quietly. She smiled again. A small, human-like smile that seemed to illuminate the air around her. "Different because you are not just strong. You have heart. You have spirit. You fight not for yourself, but for others. That is a power many do not understand." Ethan blinked, unable to believe what he was hearing. A human, so small and fragile, being praised by a being capable of destroying worlds with a single order? It felt impossible, but the truth in her voice was undeniable. Around them, the alien soldiers were tense, watching every move. They had been trained to obey instantly, to crush all opposition without question. But now they hesitated, unsure how to respond to a leader who smiled at a human, who listened to him, who seemed moved by him. Ethan's mind raced. Could it be that humans were more powerful than they had ever realized, not through weapons, not through numbers, but through courage and heart? Could a single human truly change the course of an entire invasion? The commander's gaze lingered on him for a long moment, then she stepped closer. Her presence was overwhelming, but it was not threatening. "I could command my soldiers to attack," she said softly. "I could end everything, right here, right now, but—" She paused, her golden eyes holding his gaze. "I choose not to." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to speak, to ask why, but words failed him. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. She was sparing his life. She was sparing the colony. Because of him. Because of his courage. Because of his heart. The commander raised her hand slowly, and the soldiers behind her stiffened, waiting. Ethan held his breath, fearing it might be a command for violence. But instead, she smiled again, a single gentle smile, and spoke. "Leave him be." The words echoed in the quiet ruins of the colony, and a wave of relief washed over Ethan. The soldiers shifted, then obeyed. They stepped back, lowering their weapons. Around them, a tense silence remained, but the immediate threat had passed. Ethan sank to his knees, shaking with exhaustion, fear, and disbelief. His people were safe. For now, at least. And it had all happened because of something so simple, so human: a smile, a stand, and courage that refused to bend. The commander watched him for a moment longer, then turned to her soldiers. "We leave," she commanded, her voice carrying authority. They obeyed instantly, moving back toward the ships that had brought them here. Ethan's mind was spinning. He had survived. His people had survived. And somewhere inside, he felt something shift forever, something that told him humans were capable of far more than anyone, even themselves, had imagined. And in the fading red light, he realized that this encounter, this single moment, would be remembered for generations, not for fear, not for destruction, but for courage. Because even in the darkest hour, one human had stood tall. And it had changed everything. The air was still thick with tension as the alien soldiers slowly stepped back. Their weapons lowered, but their eyes remained sharp, scanning every corner, every shadow. Ethan remained crouched behind the broken wall, his hands trembling, unsure if this pause was real or just the calm before the storm. The commander's golden eyes never left him. She stood tall, her silver armor gleaming even in the fading light. There was something in her gaze that made Ethan feel exposed, yet strangely safe. She was powerful enough to crush him instantly, yet she had chosen not to. He did not fully understand why, but he knew he would never forget this moment. Ethan rose cautiously to his feet. The broken rifle in his hands felt heavier than ever, a reminder of both his vulnerability and his courage. Why are you sparing us?" he asked quietly, his voice barely louder than a whisper. The commander's lips curved into that soft, human-like smile again. "Because you reminded me of something I thought I had lost long ago," she said. Her voice was gentle, yet carried the weight of her authority. Compassion, courage, the strength to protect what you love, even when everything seems hopeless. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had always believed humans were fragile, ordinary, weak in comparison to creatures like her. But now, facing the living proof, he realized that strength was not only in power or weapons, it was in heart, spirit, and courage. The simple act of standing, of refusing to cower, could shake even the most formidable opponent. The alien soldiers shifted uneasily behind her. They had been trained for obedience, for violence, for fear, yet none of that seemed to matter anymore. Their leader's attention was focused on a human, and that alone disrupted the rhythm of their discipline. Ethan noticed one soldier glance at another, confusion written in the rigid lines of their armor. They had never hesitated before, but now they did, and it was because of him. Ethan's chest swelled with a mixture of fear and pride. For the first time, he felt the real power of humanity, not in guns or machines, but in courage, hope, and love. A single human could change the course of events, could affect even the most powerful beings. Simply by refusing to surrender his heart to fear, the commander took a slow step forward. Her gaze still locked on Ethan. "I have seen worlds conquered, civilizations destroyed," she said quietly. "Most give up when hope fades. Most fail to stand for anything beyond themselves. But you are different." Ethan swallowed hard. "I'm not special," he whispered. "I'm just trying to do what is right." Her golden eyes softened, and she shook her head slightly. "It is rare to see someone who can stand so firm with so little. That is why you survive." The soldiers behind her began to relax, but their posture was still cautious. Ethan noticed them lowering their weapons incrementally. The tension that had gripped the colony's ruins for hours was slowly melting. His neighbors peeked from behind shelters, staring in disbelief at the scene unfolding. Their fear was slowly replaced by cautious hope. The commander raised her hand once more, and the soldiers straightened instantly. She spoke, her voice firm and clear, carrying across the ruins. "We leave. No harm will come to them." Ethan's legs nearly gave out as relief washed over him. The soldiers began retreating, filing back toward the massive ships that had darkened the sky. Their march was orderly, but the fear they carried in their eyes had shifted. Something had changed, not just for Ethan, not just for the colony, but for every being who witnessed it. Ethan sank to the ground, exhausted and trembling. He had faced death, fear, and overwhelming odds, and somehow survived. His people would live another day, their homes spared, their lives preserved. And it had all happened because he had dared to stand, because he had refused to let fear control him. The commander looked down at him one last time, her smile lingering like a soft light in the darkness. "Remember this feeling," she said softly. "Even in despair, courage can change everything." As the alien ships lifted into the sky, leaving the colony in silence and awe, Ethan realized the truth in her words. Humans were fragile, yes, but also unstoppable in ways the universe could never fully predict. A single act of bravery could echo across worlds, could alter destinies, could command even the most powerful to pause and reconsider. Ethan wiped his tears, feeling something new rise inside him: hope, pride, and an unshakable belief in the human spirit. He knew that from this day forward, nothing would ever be the same. Humanity had survived not through weapons, but through heart. And in the distance, among the retreating ships, the commander's golden eyes remained a memory etched in his mind, a reminder that a single smile, a single choice, could change it all. The alien ships disappeared into the sky, leaving the colony bathed in the soft light of the setting sun. The red glow of destruction had faded, replaced by the quiet rustle of leaves and the distant cries of birds returning. Ethan remained on his knees for a moment, trembling, letting the relief wash over him. He had survived. His people had survived. The impossible had become reality. Slowly, the colony emerged from hiding. Families reunited with tearful hugs, children ran to their parents, and neighbors embraced each other, whispering thanks to the sky, to luck, or to fate itself. For the first time in hours, laughter and relief filled the air, replacing the fear that had seemed permanent. Ethan stood, his legs unsteady but determined. People came to him, clapping him on the back, praising him for bravery. "You saved us," they said. "We owe our lives to you." Ethan shook his head. "It wasn't me," he said quietly. "It was her." He meant the alien commander, the one who had smiled, who had recognized something human in him and spared them all. No one seemed to understand fully. How could one human possibly make a difference against an entire alien army? But Ethan knew the truth. Humans were not just flesh and bone, not just minds and bodies. They carried something else, a spirit, courage, and heart that could touch even the most powerful beings. That had saved them today. As he walked through the colony, checking that everyone was safe, Ethan felt a quiet pride. He remembered the commander's golden eyes and her smile, how she had seen him for who he truly was. That recognition, that acknowledgement, had changed everything. It had stopped a war. It had saved lives. It had shown the universe that humans were not ordinary. In the days that followed, the colony began to rebuild. Homes were repaired, fields replanted, and the people worked together with a renewed sense of purpose. Ethan noticed a change in everyone's confidence, hope, and a new understanding that courage could outweigh fear. Children ran through the streets pretending to be defenders of the colony, while adults shared stories of the day the aliens came and a single human had stood tall. Yet, even amidst rebuilding, Ethan could not shake the image of the commander's eyes. There was a lesson in her gaze, something he could not yet fully articulate. Perhaps it was a warning, a reminder that power existed in many forms, or perhaps it was an acknowledgement of humanity's unique strength. Whatever it was, he carried it with him, a quiet flame of determination. The alien soldiers had left, but their presence lingered in the minds of the colonists. They were not invincible, not cruel without reason, not unstoppable. One act of courage, one refusal to give up, had forced them to pause, to reconsider, and ultimately, to leave. The people whispered about it, marveling at the power of the human heart. Ethan knew that the colony would tell this story for generations. It was more than a tale of survival. It was a story of hope, courage, and the power of standing for what is right. A story that proved humans were more than they seemed, capable of changing fate itself. One evening, Ethan sat by the river that ran through the colony, staring at the reflection of the stars in the water. He thought about the commander, her smile, and her words. Even in despair, courage can change everything. He repeated them quietly to himself, letting them sink in. He understood now that bravery was not always loud or violent. Sometimes it was quiet. Sometimes it was standing tall when the world expected you to fall. The stars above seemed brighter that night, as if echoing the lesson he had learned. Humans could face the impossible. Humans could survive, even thrive, against odds that seemed insurmountable. And in that realization, Ethan felt an unshakable pride, a sense of belonging to something greater than himself. For the first time in his life, he understood that humanity's greatest weapon was not its technology, its numbers, or its strength, but its heart. A single smile had changed everything. One human's courage had made an alien army pause, reconsider, and ultimately, leave. And that knowledge filled Ethan with hope, not just for his colony, but for the future of all humans. In the quiet aftermath, the colony slept peacefully, unaware that the events of this day would echo through history. And somewhere far beyond the stars, the alien commander remembered the human who had dared to stand, and the courage that could not be measured by weapons or power, but only by heart. Weeks had passed since the alien fleet had retreated. The colony was slowly returning to normal, though the memory of the invasion lingered in every corner. Homes had been repaired, fields replanted, and life moved forward, but the people carried a new sense of pride and hope. Ethan walked among them, helping where he could, but his mind often drifted back to that moment, the golden eyes, the gentle smile, the command that had spared them all. He realized something profound. It was not weapons or numbers that had saved the colony. It was courage. A human's heart, steadfast and unyielding, had reached even the most powerful alien. And somehow, that had changed the outcome of the battle. Ethan's chest swelled with pride and a quiet humility. He had done nothing extraordinary. And yet, by simply standing, by refusing to give in to fear, he had altered the course of events. Word of the colony's survival spread quickly to nearby settlements. Humans everywhere whispered about the bravery of one man who had faced the aliens alone. Stories grew in the telling, as stories do, but the truth remained. Courage could be more powerful than any weapon. At night, Ethan often looked to the sky. He wondered about the commander, the one who had smiled at him and seen something worth sparing. She had been an alien of unmatched power, yet she had recognized humanity's true strength. That recognition, he realized, was a rare gift. She had seen the human spirit not as weak or fragile, but as something capable of shaking even the stars themselves. Meanwhile, far beyond the colony, aboard a massive ship, the alien commander reflected on the encounter. Her golden eyes softened as she recalled Ethan's stance, his courage, and the way he had spoken of protecting what he loved. Many of her kind had fought humans and dismissed them as inferior, fragile, insignificant. But this one human had shown her otherwise. He had reminded her that power was not always measured by strength or weapons. It could be measured in heart. She thought about her soldiers, their disciplined ranks now subtly changed. Even they had felt the effect of his courage. Some had questioned, some had hesitated. And that hesitation had been enough. A single human, standing bravely, had altered their course. That realization lingered with her. Humans were dangerous not because of their strength, but because of what they carried inside. Back on the colony, Ethan walked through the fields at sunset. The wind whispered through the crops, carrying with it the quiet peace of a land spared. Children played nearby, their laughter a balm to the memory of fear. Adults worked diligently, no longer just surviving but living, filled with hope. Ethan felt a profound connection to all of them. He had faced fear, he had faced the impossible, and humanity had endured. He paused at the edge of the river, watching the reflection of the sky shimmer in the water. His mind drifted to the commander's smile. A single gesture, simple yet powerful, had changed everything. It had stopped an army, saved countless lives, and reminded him that even in the darkest moments, courage could shine brighter than fear. Ethan realized that humanity's true power lay not in its technology, not in its weapons, but in its spirit. The ability to love, to fight for what is right, and to stand even when the odds seemed impossible, that was a force no alien army could ignore. As night fell, the colony settled into a rare, deep sleep, free from fear for the first time in years. Stars glittered above, each one a silent witness to the courage that had saved a world. Somewhere far away, the commander looked at her own stars and remembered Ethan. She knew that humanity had shown something her kind could never fully predict or control. And that knowledge left an impression she would never forget. Ethan turned from the river, a calm determination in his eyes. He knew the world would continue to face challenges, dangers, and unknown enemies. But he also knew that the human spirit was stronger than any threat, that courage could inspire change, and that even the smallest actions could create ripples across the galaxy. For the first time, Ethan felt truly connected to his people, to his home, and to something far greater than himself. Humanity had been tested, and humanity had survived, not because of might, but because of heart. And far beyond the stars, the commander carried that lesson with her, forever changed by a single human who had dared to stand.